This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, NIL Game Changers, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour being brought to you by our good friends at NIL Game Changers, your ultimate destination for name, image, and likeness opportunities. Business, athletes, they'll take care of you. Go to nilgamechangers.org to begin your journey today. And we start out in our journey with Gerry Dulac, my good friend. It is always great to hear you on the other side. I hope the golf game's going well.
Well, Steve, good afternoon. Always good being with you, my friend. And sadly, once training camp starts, the golf game slows down a little bit. So that doesn't mean it stopped. It just means it's slowed down.
And that's exactly what's happened to me. Training camp started. The golf game is still in gear, but slowed down. All right. So, is this a Steeler team on initial read? You know, and I realize the teams playing cover two, it comes into play, but is this a team that's going to have to be an 8, 9, 10 play, 75-yard drive team and not a big play team?
Well, I think they're hoping to change that, Steve, because that was one of the problems last year. They weren't a quick strike team, and it was one of the reasons, and that was evidenced by the fact Kenny Pickett threw only 13 touchdowns. I mean, in 2 seasons, Russell Wilson threw 26 last year. So that's what they're hoping to change. They're hoping to be able to strike quicker through the air. And George Pickens, he might be as big a big play receiver as there is in the NFL. I mean, the catches this guy makes, I was just saying yesterday, he makes the routine play look spectacular and the spectacular play look easy. And it's just day after day at training camp. I mean, he's just wowing the crowd with these catches. And I think what he is able to bring to this offense with a quarterback who knows how to attack, obviously that was one of the things they want to change and hoping to change. And we're going to find out. We're going to find out if, in fact, that's the case. I like the hire of Arthur Smith. I thought he was perfect.
Me too.
For the way they're built and the way they want to play. And, again, we're going to see, but obviously it has to be much better than what we saw last year. And they just struggled to score points, and they were just so inefficient on offense.
And I'm with you on Arthur Smith. I thought that was a great hire. But I want to get to Russell Wilson for a moment. When he was in Seattle, especially earlier in his career, like most younger players, he could really move. And his ability to make a play, running with the football was big. I know he wears a flak jacket, but it looked like in Denver, to me, that he looked heavier and slower, right? You now get to see him on an everyday basis. How does he just physically look to you?
Well, I'm with you on that. The younger Russell Wilson, the way he could move around and, elude tacklers and extend rushers and extend plays. I mean, he looked like Fran Tarkenton in his day. Yeah. And for that reason, 2-3 years ago, right when he was in Seattle, at the end of his career in Seattle, I've always said if I had to pick one quarterback to take me on a minute-and-a-half drive to win the game, I might pick Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. For all the different ways he could beat you, including throwing deep because he's so accurate as a deep passer. Yes, he is thicker. And look, he's going to be 36 in November. So, yeah, he's slowed down. It's kind of like Ben. When you watch a young Ben Roethlisberger and then you watch a 37-year-old Ben Roethlisberger, they were two different players. Right. But they have that innate ability to make guys miss and to extend plays. He's just not as fast as he used to be. The people in Denver told me that where he got into trouble last year is when he did that, is when he tried to extend plays and use his feet. And they said he's better off, with a 2 to 3 second guy. Well, 2.5. Snap, look, get rid of him. Obviously he's very good with his progressions and all that. But I don't think, and I see no evidence of this, I don't think they want him back there creating plays, running around. Well, look, if he has to, okay. But I don't think that's not in their blueprint. And I think they want Russ to be, whether drop back or out of the shotgun. And I think they want to go more. I think they want to go more under center to take advantage of play action in their running game. But I don't think. I think Russ's where he's going to be utilized best is in a quicker passing game and taking those shots down the field.
I also think there's a strong possibility that the offensive line he operates behind in Pittsburgh is going to be better than one he had in Denver, especially with the moves they made with the draft and so forth. What's your opinion on that, Gerry?
I don't think there's any question, Steve. You look at the attention that they paid to the offensive line the past 2 years, signing Isaac Seumalo and Nate Herbig in free agency, drafting Broderick Jones, number 1. And then this year, drafting Troy Fautanu, number 1, Zach Frazier, number 2, and Mason McCormick, with their 5th pick in the 4th round. To add 6 guys like that, all those young guys who they're thrilled with, there is no question. When Andy Weidel came in as the assistant GM, and he came from the Eagles, he was their vice president of player personnel. It was told to me by one of their people at the time that what Andy will do is attack the lines of scrimmage. And he did it with the offensive line. His next chore for the next 2 years is to spend the same amount of attention, devote the same amount of attention on the defensive line because it needs it. So, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt when you look at their offensive line, and not only the starters but the depth, because the depth right now is the young people right now. A lot of teams have a hard time finding a number 1 offensive line, let alone depth. And the Steelers have stocked themselves very well, positioned themselves very well on the line. And, yeah, I think it's going to be a big plus for them, no question.
How do you view the secondary on this team in this camp right now?
Well, I think when they weakened their wide receiver position when they traded Deontay Johnson, but they knew they weren't going to keep him. But by weakening that position, by taking away a productive number 2 receiver, they strengthened their cornerback position. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Dante Jackson is a Pro Bowler, but Dante Jackson is an improvement over what they had, and he's brought a lot of speed to the secondary. Now you pair him with Joey Porter Jr. in his second year, and now maybe you have something. So they went out and they got Deshaun Elliott in free agency as well. They added speed there and a thumper, and they improved that strong safety position. Of course, Minkah Fitzpatrick's Minkah Fitzpatrick. And so they've made attempts to improve it. It wasn't a horrible weakness last year, but it certainly wasn't a strength. And I'm not going to call it a strength, but I think it's improved over as most positions have, with the exception of the defensive line. I think they have taken great steps to improve positions that needed improved, and several of those being on defense, including the inside linebacker spot after the injuries they had.
Back to Arthur Smith for a moment. You and I are in complete agreement how much we like this hire. And the really good ones are the ones that can adapt what they're doing to their personnel. They don't try to do the square peg round hole thing. When you watch Arthur Smith working with this team, what are you seeing that you think brings out the best in players because he's adapting what he does to their ability?
Well, what I see, Steve? I see a guy who can do here exactly what he did in Tennessee when he was the offensive coordinator there. And I'm sorry if there's any background noise because I'm at the stadium. They're getting ready to do a scrimmage with the Bills. In Tennessee, you look, 2 years he's the offensive coordinator. Derrick Henry had the best 2 years, 1,500 yards, 2,000 yards. Not only did Derrick Henry flourish, Ryan Tannehill had his best 2 years as a professional. They kind of re-energized his career, which was floundering no pun intended, with the Dolphins. So he has the chance to do the exact same thing here. Najee Harris is as close to Derrick Henry as there is in the NFL. I'm not calling him Derrick Henry, but you're talking about a big, powerful back who moves the pile and run guys over. And that's what Derrick Henry does. And you have a quarterback such as Russell Wilson, who I'm not saying needs to be re-energized. Steve, he threw 26 touchdowns last year with 8 interceptions. You know how many quarterbacks in the league would take that? You know how many teams would take their quarterback to be able to do that in this league? A lot of them, most of them. And so having those pieces in place, and then you throw in a guy like Jaylen Warren, who the Steelers like every bit as much as Najee Harris, I think he has two big pieces to work with, and of course he has a big play receiver. So that's why I think it's a good fit for him here, and the pieces that he utilized with success in Tennessee are almost identical here, and that's why I think it's going to be a big plus for the Steelers and for him.
Yeah, I mean, and all the way through that, there's been a lot of talk about Brandon Ayuk and so forth, and who knows how that's going to play out. What do the Steelers need to do, at least with this roster, to somehow put a balance on the opposite side of Pickens that would make Pickens even more?
I missed the last part. To somehow put what?
A balance to Pickens on the other side. Who do they have in this roster that can balance Pickens out? At least, you know, he'll get double, but the other guy may be able to make some plays. Who might that be?
Well, right, and that's why they were hoping to bring in a proven number 2 guy. And, and Brandon Ayuk certainly fits that bill. But right now it's going to be Van Jefferson, who they like coming out of college and had a good year with the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl.
No doubt.
Now, is he a proven number 2? No, but right now that's going to be that guy. They brought in Kes Watkins in free agency, who had his best week at camp this past week. And they drafted Roman Wilson, who you're familiar with at Michigan. Now, he hurt his ankle, nothing serious. He'll probably be back for the last preseason game. But he hasn't had a chance to play yet, and they really like him. I'll tell you what I was surprised at, Steve, and I don't know how much you noticed this, when you saw the Michigan games. He's a Hines Ward-type player. He loves contact. He's not afraid to block, makes combat catches. I couldn't get over how slight a frame he was when I first saw him. To me, when I saw him the first day of camp, I didn't even know he was one of the players. I thought it might have been one of the helpers or something. But they like this kid. So we're going to see. But what they're going to rely on too, and you know this very well, is Pat. And so, Arthur Smith's background is as a tight end coach. He loves tight ends. He loves multiple tight ends. And they drafted Darnell Washington last year, the big kid, 6'7", 280, out of Georgia, and they want to get him more involved in the pass game this year. So I think you're going to see that lack of a true number 2 without Ayuk try to be balanced with other weapons. And that's, I think, the approach they have taken.
See, what happened with Wilson, you're right about the frame. And in the Roman Wilson games that I did, last year, he did nothing against Penn State, and they were very physical with him as to how they played. And then McCarthy got banged up as the game went, and so he stopped throwing the ball. 2 years ago, when they were in Beaver Stadium, or 3 years ago, he caught 2 touchdown passes against Joey Porter Jr. on a day where Joey Porter Jr. was not physical with him. And you and I both know Joey can be a bit handsy, and he decided not to be that day, and Wilson caught 2 touchdown passes. So when he gets a free release, he's good, but again, he's not going to be able to use his physical traits. I'm talking about like power to get by people. That's not who he is. Right,
and that's why I think he's going to have to put on probably 10 pounds and get a little thicker. Not thick, just thicker, But we've seen other guys with smaller frames. I just thought his frame was a little slight. Yeah. They love the way he plays. They love the way he catches and turns upfield. They just haven't had a chance to see him in a game yet. But, hey, little different competition in the NFL than it is in college.
In a lot of ways, as T.J. Watt goes, so goes the Steelers. How's he been to this point?
Well, that's true, but I think what's happened by bringing in Patrick Queen, now you've made a significant effort and taking a significant step to improve your defense. That's the position. I don't know why it sounds like the Daytona Speedway here because I'm by the stadium, but apparently some people like to try it out. What he does is he stabilizes, knock on wood, a position that has been a rotating door since Ryan Shazier's career-ending injury in 2016. I mean, Steve, they've just kept bringing in players year after year after year, and, this time they signed one of the biggest players in free agency, and they gave one of the biggest free agent contract they've ever given when they signed Patrick Queen. And that is as big a step as the team made. It's right up there with bringing in Russell Wilson. And so that makes them better across that linebacker crew. And, Landon Roberts was a surprise last year, but he was the last man standing after Cole Holcomb and Quan Alexander got hurt. And he was like the heartbeat of that defense. He's a thumper. But the guy they like as well, who they can play in sub-packages, is rookie Peyton Wilson. The Bednarik Butkus Award winner, highly decorated, 6'3", 242, and runs a 4.43. This kid has a chance to be maybe not only the steal of the Steelers draft, maybe the steal of the NFL draft. And, for right now, he's going to play sub-package football. But they've made two big steps there, especially with Patrick Queen, to improve that position.
Again, I think the Queen signing, we could talk about free agent signings, I thought there can't be another signing more important than that. So at minimum, let's be conservative, say he's the top 5. But he plays the game differently than the other linebackers they've had over the recent years.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And the other thing it does, it weakens your top opponent's position as well.
Yes.
By taking him from Baltimore. But yeah, Patrick Queen is a proven big-time player. And with all the people they've tried, it's been, okay, bring them in. They're nice players. They're good players. Cole Holcomb, let's keep our fingers crossed. They're not Patrick Queen. And that's why I agree. I mean, that's, to me, it may be the biggest signing of the offseason, but I'll at least give it the fact that you brought in a 9-time Pro Bowl, Super Bowl winning quarterback who actually should have won 2 Super Bowls in Russell Wilson. That, I mean, when you're talking about marquee resume signings, let's face it, that's up there with any one of them.
Gerry, always a pleasure. I'll let you get to work inside that stadium and look forward to seeing you soon, my friend.
Well, Steve, anytime, and I always enjoy chatting with you.
Same here. Thanks so much. The great,
hey, my friend.
You bet. The great Gerry Dulac joining us on the show today. And the best in the business. And you talked about the golf game part of it. Look, I think the two of us have to just figure out about dropping something some weekend in the off season and just say, look, let's just go play. Let's go play and get it done. I think that's what we have to do at this point. God. This half hour brought to you by NIL Game Changers, your ultimate destination for name, image, and likeness opportunities. Business, athletes, they'll do whatever they can to help you. Start your journey today at nilgamechangers.org. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Sunbury Motors Hyundai is 43 new Hyundais away from their all-time sales record through August. With 134 new Hyundais to choose from, plus deep discounts and low interest rates, SMC is going to break this record. Sunbury Motors has 48 2024 Tucsons available, starting at $32,568, or get 1.99% financing for 60 months. Looking for the most versatile compact truck on the planet? Take up to $3,000 off the 2024 Santa Cruz. The Santa Cruz starts at $31,247, and there's 16 in stock. Here you go, car buyers. SMC has 11 2024 Elantras with 1.99% financing for 60 months. And Elantras start at just $22,960. If you want to have a fun day, you have to buy a Hyundai. We're breaking the record in August with 43 new Hyundai sold. Hurry in to Sunbury Motors Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.